2011. My name is Aaron Zeilinger. We're going to be having another fantastic panel today. And we've got a number of things happening with Impulse Youth Arts Organization. First up, if you are in this virtual environment right now, not if, but most of us are in this virtual environment, and you're looking for something to pick up or get ready for, especially when it comes to the 2021 season, we have a virtual academy called the Impulse Institute. You can find out more about that at www.impulseyoutarts.org. We also have been uploading a lot of videos to our YouTube channel. So if you go on YouTube and find Impulse Drum and Bugle Corps on there, we've been uploading past shows. We've been uploading all of these watch parties with clean video inserted into it. And we are going to be uploading more rehearsal videos and things from throughout the years. So make sure you go there and subscribe and check out all the fun things that we're going to be posting. Next up, Impulse alumni. We are doing lots of things to engage all of you. As a matter of fact, currently right now, we are doing a baseball cap replacement. So if you don't have, or you would like a new non-sweaty version of the Impulse members hat, you can place that order on our Impulse alumni page. And in fact, it will have the 100 years that you marched on the side of it. So please go to our Facebook alumni page and you can get a baseball cap there. We also have several board openings right now for our board of directors. So if you would love to get back involved, it's been a joy having alumni come back. Please contact us at secretary@impulseyoutarts.org or core director@impulseyoutarts.org. Alumni, we are all doing a virtual performance. In fact, Henry is heading it up and we're going to be putting together a couple different recordings. So if you'd like to get involved with that, keep a watch on our Facebook page. We'll have some announcements and different things about that coming up soon. So with all of that aside, we're going to launch right into this. If you are watching live, you can leave comments on our Facebook page. I am watching them and I'll bring them up. Please remember it's a family show and keep them appropriate. But after all that, let's start with our introductions. First up.
Aaron, can you go down the list, please?
Mark, you're first.
Hey, everybody. As it says on, on the screen right there, my name's Mark. But I marched Impulse 2010, 2011 on bass drum. I marched Snare 2012 and 2014. I did Pulse Open World in 2012. And yep, I said Pulse Open World. It was POW after that, right? And then right now, I've been, working with the Corps, launched an indoor group called Instinct, and have been, doing local theater stuff around the community. That's what I've been up to.
Awesome. Next up, Serica. Am I not coming through? Serica, you're up next.
Sorry, guys. I just moved and I haven't gotten Wi-Fi yet. So you guys are cutting in and out, but I'm going to do my best. But yeah, my name is Serica Gomez. I marched Impulse Mellophone in 2010, and then I did Teen Colored. I am just working now. I work for a corporate office, but currently working for home. I work for accounting, and then I recently just got married, so that's new.
Congratulations. All right, next up, Losa.
Thank you.
Well,
what was that?
Yeah, hi, I'm Losa. I did Mellophone 2011 is my rookie year, my only year. And yeah, currently I work in like freelance filmmaking. And oh yeah, so I did it, yeah. And I did, I played Mellophone like pep band when I was in college. So that was fun after. Yeah. Cool.
Next up, Henry.
Hey there, I'm Henry. I marched 2002, 3, 4, 5 in soprano, 2006 mellophone, came back in 2011 and just taught the last 2 weeks just for the North Cal show. I currently live in Salem. I'm a substitute teacher, musician, finishing my last year in my master's program as a band director. I have a trumpet studio. Also, like Aaron said, I'm in charge of the alumni corps that Impulse is officially creating now. So if you guys are interested in playing or something, just give me a private message, and then we have some projects coming up. So.
Fantastic. Next up, Joey.
I'm Joey Valenzuela. I was the color guard caption head in 2010, 2011. Currently, I'm teaching color guard all over Southern California at a few different places, as well as I'm now the color guard caption head for Gold Drum and Bugle Corps.
And next up is Jeff.
Jeff McGinnis was around since the start of Impulse through 2014. And 2011, I was part of the design team and tour guy and various duties as assigned.
Next up, Alexis.
Yay, my name's Alexis. I marched Impulse, my rookie year was 2011. I also marched in 13. After that, I marched the Troopers from 14, and then I aged out in 17. I currently am the caption head there for visual. I've been doing that for 2 years, and my first year teaching was 16, and I also taught in 18, so I taught a little bit before I aged out. But yeah, that's it. Oh, sorry. I forgot that I do things now. I also teach still. I teach in Orange County high schools. Jasper, don't make that face. I teach at a couple of high schools in Orange County. And I also work with our new indoor line Instinct Percussion as a visual caption head there too. Okay, I'm done.
Next up, Omar.
Hey everybody, my name is Omar Vidana. I marched Impulse 01 through 03, drum major, aged out 03, and became the corps director in 2011 for the Impulse Drum and Bugle Corps. And from then, I've been part of the board of directors till now. Currently, I am the director of bands at Bellflower High School. So I've been doing that for, I think this is my 13th year there. So there you go.
And next up, Jasper.
Hello, I'm Jasper Bang. I marched Mellophone from 2010, 2011, 12, and 13. What am I doing? I finally got my master's degree in civil engineering, and I'm currently working as a design engineer full-time. Yeah.
Yeah. And next up, Steve.
Hello, I'm Steve Ortega. I marched in 05 on Contra. Jeff is our tech. And in 08, I was in for like a day, and then 9, 10, 11, I was on staff with Visual and Brass. And I also drove the truck 9, 10, 11, and basically like almost every year. So, yep. Oh, and now I own my own semi and drive around and be essential.
And next up, Raphael.
Hi, I'm Raphael. I marched Impulse 2001, 2005, Euphonium 01, Contra from 02 to 05. I was on visual staff in 2018. I've been on board since 2017. Currently secretary, and yeah, currently I am the music in. I teach music at Duarte Unified.
And my name is Aaron Zeilinger. I marched Mellophone from 2001 to, that's interesting, my mic seems to be weird, from 2001 to 2003. I cooked 2004, 2005. I recruited in 2008, and I've been the corps director since 2018. I'm also the director of the Impulse Institute online offerings. I am also the band director at Orange Lutheran High School. So with all of that aside, let's jump right into our questions.
Hi, Omar. So first question goes out to you. Since you needed to leave us real fast, apparently you have some birthday you have to get to. Happy birthday, by the way. How'd you feel coming back as corps director this year? How is it like for you? And would you still do the job? AKA, would you want to take Aaron's job away from him? Okay, by the way, I know the answer to that, but on that note, can you explain to us your how was it like? And I know what your answer is about being the corps director again, but what the job entails, and kind of compare it and your feelings towards it, of like the work that goes into it.
Yeah. Well, I was contacted by a few of the board members, and it was, I felt it was an honor. It was an honor that they asked me to do this, and they believed that I could contribute to this core, the core that gave me so much. So I accepted, and it was I underestimated the position. My respects for all the current core directors, especially ours, our wonderful director Aaron Zeilinger. The job entitles to do so much, and so much volunteer hours, beyond the volunteer hours actually. And you just you're responsible to keep that core alive, and go day by day. And the problem that we had that year, I remember the biggest problem that I had that year is housing, which is always a problem, I think. So I mean, it's it was very, very stressful. But I remember Steve Yannick was my assistant, and so was Carolyn Parsons, and they helped me a lot. They really, it took three of us to make it happen. But it was, let me tell you, it was such a tough job. And to answer your final question, no, I would not take it again, ever again. I remember when we had our home show, I was dealing with the show site. I was dealing with my own students, my high school students, because it was at Bellflower High School. So I was dealing with that, and I was also dealing with the core members. So that day I will never forget. I think I lost like maybe 2 to 3 years of my lifespan that day. So, but nonetheless, it's just my respects for all the core directors out there. And again, especially for ours, that I know what he goes through when when things aren't going the way it's supposed to go. I know exactly what he feels, and I just I salute you, sir.
And I salute you, birthday boy. On that note, I got another question to get to you before you run off and celebrate your birthday.
Okay.
What are some of your favorite moments of the tour and show? Are there any moments that didn't go, as you said, according to plan that you might want to share, or any other things you want to do? And
my favorite moment in the show was when we were doing I believe it was Korean folk song suite. Just the music, the arrangement, and we had such a good trumpet player, which I became friends with afterwards. And I actually gigged with some mutual friends of his, and we just it was a beautiful rendition of it. And I enjoyed the music, and whenever we would rehearse it, especially I remember Memorial Day camp, I would just sit there on the side and just listen to it, just because we have to do it 50,000 times just to to get it okay that weekend. And it was wonderful. But my favorite parts of tour was working with the great staff that we had, and Joey is a caption head, and now he actually works at my high school for me, and that's where I first met him, and it's been a great friendship from then. And and I got to see Henry again. That was the first time I saw him after I aged out in 03. He continued to march, and that was the first time I saw him. I met Mark as well, and I remember Mark would always say hi to me, and just with the smile and everything. I remember that, Mark. And I had the tour, even though it was just a limited tour schedule, but it was a great tour. And also when we stopped in San Francisco, that was a lot of fun. We had like our free day there, and just the kids I remember had a blast. So that was pretty cool.
So how close are you to the big 4-0, Omar?
1 year. I'm 39. I'm 39 today. So yeah, I'm getting close. No bueno.
You and me both, sir.
Well, that's all the questions we have for you, Omar. So
All right.
enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys. It was nice seeing all of you guys as well. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys around.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Guys.
Hi,
Thank you.
hi,
Thank you
Omar.
guys. Thank you guys.
All right. So this next question is an open-ended question for anybody to answer. And if you want to answer, just let us know. So in 2001, the Impulse ended the show with a tag that went so well that we did it again the following year. You guys, the core did the Sunburst in 2010. How was it to do it again in 2011 and then it worked out as well as you guys planned it, thought it was going to go? So I'll go with, let's say, Jasper.
For me, doing the Sunburst again was different because when I first did it in 2010, I was on, I think, side one, and then in 2011 I did it on side two, so it was like completely different for me. But I liked it. I felt like it was executed very well. I think we also switched the marching technique doing it too, so that was different.
Steve, I'm gonna ask you the same question. I want to hear your answer because last week you were complaining about two was being on the wrong side. So were they on the correct side this year?
Yes, they were on the correct side, and so yeah, I mean it went great as a Viz guy. So
I remember that being a very expensive part of the conversation to make that happen.
Oh, it pissed me off all the time. I was like, really, guys? Like, really, Vince?
All right, Joey, can you give us your idea of the Sunburst?
It's funny because I almost did it identical from the year before. Like literally, the choreography was the same, the feel was the same. I kept it that same old, drum corps style. I figured it worked so well the year before. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So from a choreography standpoint, like we kept it the same, and that was a conscious choice. It was like plus for us, it was kind of that I'm for anything that kind of lets us look at each other and giggle. So from the color guard staff, it was like, ha ha ha, it's exactly the same, but it's getting the same reaction. It's so simple and basic. So for us, it was nice to kind of repeat it.
All right, Mark?
I mean, I was a little indifferent about it. I did think it was funny, right? I was in the bass line again this year, so the percussion or the battery was pretty much in the same spot. So really, I was just on the other side of the bass line because I played bottom bass 2010 and top bass in 2011. But it was definitely like Joey was saying was that it was pretty similar, but it still carried the same hype, yeah. And then I feel like some of the licks that we did was just a little bit more than what it was before. So thanks Nico for not giving us the same thing, right? But it's always fun to look back because it was like in the show it's tribute, and I know that this was tributing the troopers, so. It definitely felt like it had more meaning this time around because we were definitely making like a call to action saying like, hey, like this is for, all those monumental moments, in the past, and we want to like pay tribute to all those corps. And so, in this instance, that's what we did it. And then instead of doing USA, right, like after that moment, it was DCI. So just kind of like, giving a nod to that as well. So I thought it was pretty cool.
And Jeff?
Show was tribute, and you gotta love the Sunburst, and the crowd loves it too. So might as well, right?
All right. So for our rookies, that year, so you guys didn't experience it the year before, but you must have known that did the Sunburst the year before. How was that like for you? Let's start with Alexis first.
My knowledge of DCI was very non-existent. I think I marched DCI before I had ever actually seen a show. I don't think I had like actually experienced it before, but like it was definitely super cool. So imagine my dumb 14-year-old brain. I thought we like invented this. I don't know. I think I was dumb. I was like, oh wow, this is like a great idea. I was like, oh, I get it. It's a sunburst, like we're bursting. I was like, that's super cool. And then they were like, no, this is like a thing that the troopers do, which is like a really old drum corps. And I was like, oh, for sure, that's super cool too. And then I went on to march with the troopers, and this is 11 was the only sunburst I was ever in. We didn't do them in the years that I marched the troopers. So it was a really cool experience. And then looking back, it like definitely like it was pretty wholesome and well-rounded. Like I think it was really neat. If you ever watch the video, me and Leslie Gerkenich were the two mellophones right in the middle on like the 50 or whatever. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Like I thought that this was like the first time I ever did like hard drill and stuff. It was awesome. I love the sunburst. I thought it was a great idea. I also thought it was our idea. So.
Loza?
I know, I'm just like smiling and laughing, remembering it, because that was also my rookie year, and it was like the first and only year I ever marched DCI. I'd only did like band in high school, so I was like, oh my god, this is like the big leagues. This is so crazy. The drill is so cool. For me, it was like, I think it was like sunburst to spelling DCI, and my my freaking coordinates. I feel like I had to go past like 10 yards? I don't know. I just had to like look like ass across the field. Sorry. I had to like run across the field to get to the bottom of the eye, and that was so hard. That's what I remember, but it looked good, and we spelled DCI, and it was cool. Everyone loved it.
Okay. And Sarika, I believe you just came back on. How'd you feel about the sunburst, if you can hear me?
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know how to get this to show me. Now I put it on my laptop. I'm sorry. It's because I just moved, and I live next to an airport. This is a fail, but I'm going to try.
Okay, well, here's a question. And in 10, you did the sunburst, and you guys did it again in 11. How did that feel for you? Did it seem like, okay, we did it again, this is boring, or was it like a different experience for you?
It was definitely interesting because the first time around I was with the mellophones, and then the second time around I was with color guard. So during that time, it was towards like the rifle feature. So it's definitely a lot more entertaining because color guard is my passion way more.
That makes Joey happy.
Yeah.
All right, and Henry, I know you came in, with the final 2 weeks. Your thoughts when you first saw the sunburst?
I have no clue what we're talking about. I think once I watched the video, I probably remember, but I have no clue. I mean, I was there for 2 weeks, and basically I was just cleaning drill. I mean, and ask me this question after the show, and then I'll answer it.
And after the show, you're going to say, I don't remember where the sunburst was. I was watching, but what's the sunburst?
I was looking at feet.
All right. The next question goes to our first year members for this year. Specifically, what brought you to Impulse? It can be as simple as, I don't know, I saw some people marching and I showed up, or a friend brought me, or maybe you learned about it through DCI. So let's start with Losa. What brought you to Impulse?
Oh, okay. To be really honest, I think there was like a guy I liked who joined and then quit. And then I was like, screw that, I'm going to stay. And I forced my friend Ashley to join me too. And it was one of the best summers of my life. So it was dope. And also I was high school drum major. So I just was like, I want more marching band, more hardcore marching, more everything. And it was kind of one of the best things ever. So it was great.
And what about you, Alexis?
I think if I'm remembering correctly, I got like a phone call from my then drum major who had also marched in Impulse. His name's Noe Gomez, and he's also very active in the activity still. He like called me the morning of the audition, and he was like, there's this thing that's happening by your house. You have to go. And I was like, oh, that sounds rational. And so it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, oh, it's down the street. And at the time, like I commuted to high school because long story, but like I went to high school in Montebello, but your auditions were in Ontario, which is like where I lived. So it was like right down the street. So I was like, oh, for sure. So I showed up, and it was a bunch of people that were a lot like me, that loved band and that ran everywhere. And the staff was also super cool. It was my first experience with a tech staff that wasn't just my band director. I'd never had a tech staff before. So I was like, whoa, this is dope. And so I stayed, and that's what got me. I didn't know what drum corps was, but I was definitely in it to win it, and it was super great. It was like changed my life.
All right, going on. Actually, Jasper, I want to get your thoughts on that too, because we didn't have you on last week, and 2010 was your rookie year. What brought you to Impulse in 2010?
Aaron. Aaron was my assistant band director, and um, we of yeah, Aaron. He took a bunch of us. I think, shoot, we had like a competition the night before the camp. Yeah, and so like he just took a bunch of us over to the audition camp or something. And yeah, I'm like, all right, cool, this is great. I always wanted to do drum corps my freshman year of high school, but I was never able to do it.
Cool. All right. Next question goes out to Mark, Sarika, and Jasper. Um, you guys are now vets of the Corps. What brought you guys back to the Corps? So let's start with Mark.
Yeah, so I came back just because of growth. I think was like a main thing, right? But also in the same light of what brought me there my rookie year, just the staff and the membership, right? So like I was really pleased with the percussion staff and the percussion caption head. I was very pleased with the membership. You know, it was always like a good time. And I always forget to mention this in the intro, but like I was also, you know, on the staff program coordinating and percussion captioning for 2018 and 2019. And I had this conversation with Jeff actually, like, you know, a few weeks ago, but I feel like what brings, you know, and what's going to continue to bring me back, you know, to Impulse as a member, as we go through these watch parties, and what kind of brought me back as a staff member is that like, you know, he summed up by saying like everyone has, you know, Impulse that's participated in Impulse. It's like close to their heart. And the reason why we come back, whether it's like as a member or if we have the opportunity as a staff, is because we just want to contribute to making, you know, this a special place for others, just like it was for us. You know what I mean? And so I think when we got into 2011, I started like, you know, feeling that sense of, you know, wanting to give back. Like, wow, what a life-changing experience it was in 2010. You know, there's going to be new people just like me going into 2011. And then, you know, as we move forward and just being able to share that experience with everybody, I think that was like the main driving factor for me.
All right, Jasper, what brought you back this year?
What brought me back this year was a couple things. One of them was I wanted to be in an actual, like, have a mellophone section. Last in 2010, it was like a section of like 4 people, and it was me and another person that played for the majority of the time. So Monsi and Serica did play a little bit, but man, it was tough trying to carry a section. So in 2011, you know, there were a little bit more people, and I was like, let's do it, let's get it. And also similar to what Mark said was like I wanted to make Impulse a place where people can go and have fun and grow. I wanted to make Impulse as better than last year.
And Sarika, same question. What brought you back to Impulse? But same time, can you tell us what brought you to the Corps in 2010?
Okay, so when first coming into Impulse, I actually replaced my brother. So my brother started off and he ended up quitting it. And then maybe about a week into Everydays, I got a call from Matthew Rodriguez, who was the drum major at the time. He called me and he's like, "What are you doing?" And it's like noon. I'm in high school, you know, I was bumming it. It's summer, you know, I was sleeping. And he said, "We'll get up, put some shorts on, grab some water. I'm picking you up in 20 minutes. Okay, well, where are we going? And he's like, "I'm not telling you. Just get up and get dressed." All right. So he picks me up and I show up and I'm just like, "What the heck is this?" And he just hands me a mellophone. He's like, "Here, we're gonna teach you this." Mind you, I am a color guard captain for my high school. I know nothing about music or reading notes. So thank you to Jasper for all the love and patience. I was a horn holder. So I was a plug my rookie year, and I was spot on my drill. you know, and I learned how to play, but just the holds. That's it. So coming in my second year, I actually auditioned for what I actually like to do, which is color guard. And 2011 was probably my favorite year marching for guard. It was definitely an experience and something has taught that it taught me a lot, especially being taught by Joey. He was really hard on me that year, and I think that was my favorite year out of all marching because that summer carried on. He was very hard on me, but very worth it.
I remember I put you on Saber that summer and you were not happy.
Yes, and that was my first time.
Going
Yes,
to learn it. I was Jasper
I'm gonna
basically.
like it.
Because she could do it. She had hands and she could spin it. But it was really like,
Yes.
I want to do it. And I said, oh, I didn't give you a box to check. Here, go march the spot. And I remember there was a couple of tears, but it was worth it. She got really
No,
good.
yeah. I was the youngest one on the team, and I was the only one on all weapon lines. So that was very fun.
All right, and Henry, you had mentioned that you joined the last 2 weeks for the NorCal stretch. What brought you back into this madness?
Once again, I don't remember. It's either Steve, someone on staff gave me a call, and I had nothing going on this summer. I already had a planned trip to Boston, so I just bought a plane ticket and grabbed my suitcase, and I lived in my suitcase for 2 weeks. I had like nowhere to like stay, so I was like staying with staff, just like one place here, next day there, and so it was just like traveling. I mean, like, I guess one of the reasons why I came back is a lot of the staff people were members that I marched with. So that kind of gave me an opportunity to get back to the core. And that was my first time actually teaching Impulse. I mean, it was a blast. I had a really fun time. I mean, going up to North Cal, you know, cleaning drill. I was actually technically the mellow tech. So I was, you know, helping these three clowns here, which was, you know, pretty awesome. I mean, they're a great section. I mean, there's two more. I think there was 5 of them. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was. What I loved is that they were still Impulse. They had their own tradition, and it was just kind of fun just watching that. And I just kind of went with it. And I had a fun summer, so it was really, really, really fun.
All right. Next question goes to our rookies for this year. When you guys did a portion of, you know, the cadet tribute part, you guys were playing Hoedown. You guys just like the cadets when they did it yelled out beef. By any chance, do you guys know what that's in reference to? Yes or no, Alexis or Lose?
I had no idea. I just thought it was cool, so did it.
Yeah, I remember thinking it was funny. I vividly remember Vince, like our drill guy, being on the field and being on the sideline and just yelling beef during our rehearsals. And at first I didn't realize it was at the same part of the show every time. I just thought that was something he yelled at us, and I thought it meant something.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask, let's see, the other 2 members marching that year, because you guys are on the same age, Jasper and Mark. Do you guys know what that is? And Sarika, do you guys know what that's in reference to by any chance?
No clue. No idea whatsoever.
Mark?
Nope. I definitely don't know. And in the battery, we yell a bunch of things everywhere in the show. So I vaguely remember beef. I definitely remember Vince yelling beef. I thought he was just trying to hype us up and saying like we were playing really well or something, but nope.
Jasper?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember yelling beef. Like Marcus said, I do remember Vince yelling beef, and I thought he wanted us to like play louder or play like beefy. I don't know.
Okay, well, what that's in reference to is many moons ago, like I believe the 90s, and you know, Aaron or Jeff, Joey, you guys can, Steve, you guys can correct myself, Eric, you too.
In the 90s.
But in the 90s, there was a commercial for beef, and they played Hoedown, and at the end, they yelled out beef. So the beef thing is a reference to an old TV commercial in the 90s.
Super relevant.
Yep.
Everybody yelled.
Yeah,
Everybody yelled it back in the day. I remember that as a kid.
we didn't understand it. We just needed you guys to do it. But that was.
I think it's pretty funny that Vince would just yell beef and no one told the members what it was. I'm just vividly imagining this, how confusing it must be.
To be fair, Vince yelled a lot of things
I was just
during
gonna
the
say,
show.
Vince yelled a lot of things. He's a chatterbox.
You remember
Yeah,
any of
Vince-
the other things?
Yeah,
Vince
he
would
yelled a
always
lot.
have like a straw hat. He would have this like straw hat every season, right? And then basically when he felt like the show was at completion, he'll like cut the tag. That was always a big hype.
He would just scream, "Breathe!" all the time, just randomly, whenever he felt like it.
Good times. Next question goes to our staff members. When the Corps was doing tribute, was it intended as a straight tribute to other Corps, or was there supposed to be sort of an impulse tribute to it? And let's start with Henry.
I don't know.
I started with you on purpose.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I just came in. I was like the staff plug. I just came in. They're like, hey, do this and this and this. So I was cleaning drill. I was moving my luggage around. I was, teching the mellows and high brass. I mean, I think it was a tribute to like other corps. Once again, I'll answer this after the movie.
How about Joey?
I remember it being, we wanted to pay, I think tribute, it's not necessarily a direct replica. And so we just wanted to kind of reference all these great DCI moments and cores and stuff like that. So for me, from a color guard design aspect, I just wanted it to be impulse. I wanted it to be loud. I wanted it to be bright and energetic, but still pay respect to kind of the foundation that everyone had led. So it was nice to kind of make it my own, knowing that though there was every time we'd come down out of the stands after a performance, you'd have the old guys wearing their 1970s Cavi shirts, like oh, that was great, I remember when I did that back in the day. And they would always you always have those older guys that come up to you afterwards and like, oh, that was cool, I remember that. So that was kind of nice to have that reaction, because that's what we were going for, was have this nostalgic tribute to all these great DCI moments that everyone that has followed the activity for a long time knows. So a lot of the kids didn't really get them or understand them. A lot of times we would try to tell them like, this is what this is from, or this is the moment that so-and-so did, and this is why it's important and relevant. So to have the old guys in the stands, because ultimately at the end of the day, those are the guys that love to give critical feedback. They wanted to see some of their old stuff, but it was cool to have it updated and have a new spin on it, because Impulse has always been entertaining, and that's what we wanted to do with it.
How about you, Steve?
Well, yeah, the great thing about this show is that when we would do our tribute, it was also like the marching styles and the way they held their horns, like when they did the hoedown, the cadet thing, they up and up in. And then also when we did the cabbie stuff, we did the bicycle step. And so it was like, it wasn't just a tribute of music, it was a tribute of like the style of the group, even though, I mean, we couldn't like, do what they do and all that stuff, but we tried our best to do that. Or, I mean, the drum corps tried their best, not because, yeah. But I mean, that's what the great thing about the drum corps, that show was, that it was a complete tribute of the best way we can do it.
And how about you, Jeff?
Yeah, it was a tribute to, it was the Impulse take on the tribute to the G Bugle days, which a lot of the people who go to see the shows were G Bugle Day people, so they loved it. And it's about putting something out, the Impulse style, about putting something out that's entertaining for the audience. And there's nothing more entertaining to those people wearing their corps jackets from the 70s to see and hear drum corps from the 70s.
All right, our next question is another open-ended question for anybody. What was the audience response to the show? at shows, did you guys always have fans from other corps? You know, you always have fans from other corps and alumni. Did they like it, or were some of those almost like insulted that you were doing something that belonged to a corps? You know, it's like, oh no, this is, you know, cadets. How dare you do that kind of thing? Or was it like, hey, that's great. You know, so I'll start with, just to keep the tradition of Aaron, I'll start with Henry.
Man, I don't know. So I remember just being in the stands. You know, people loved it. I mean, every show, I was actually really surprised how people were really into the show. There was, there was so much energy that was coming out of the field that was coming to the stands, and like, you know, I was definitely grooving. Staff loved it. I mean, I know guard, brass, percussion. I mean, everybody was like, yeah, this is good stuff. I mean, that's the reaction. I mean, it was a crowd pleaser. So it was like the old school impulse of like, not about the scores, it's about entertainment and just getting stuff out there. And yeah, people digged it. It was great.
Serica.
I thought the show had a lot of hype. I didn't get any negative feedback. I thought it was a really fun, entertaining show. Other than that, I mean, I was like 14, minding my own business, so I don't know. I didn't know any better. I don't know. I was just going along, having a good time.
Jasper?
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't remember. It's been a while, and I think maybe at the time, after every show, I was just busy trying to clean up.
All right. Joey.
Like I said, I never heard anything negative. Either people got it and they were like, wow, that's really cool, you're doing roles and stuff, or they didn't know any better and they were still entertained. So either way, I felt like, you know, even if the people didn't understand what exactly it is that we were doing, they enjoyed the show and they enjoyed like, oh, like it flows so well and it works really good and I like the music and I like the colors and I like the drill. So it was never really like, I never got heard anything negative about what it is that we were doing. Either people got it and knew that we were like, you know, recreating these moments, or they were just like, I really like the show, I dig it. So
Jeff?
Yeah, pretty much what Joey said. You know, the people that knew what it was loved it, and the people who didn't know what it was, there was a melody, there was, you know, it was entertaining, and so I don't remember any negative responses, and from the people who knew what it was, they loved it because it was something they knew.
Losa.
Yeah, I thought, like, again, as like a rookie and like I was like, what, 14, 15, I was like nerding out over the music because I just thought it was so challenging. Like, I was actually a woodwind player and this was my first time doing brass, so it was just so like, holy crap, we have to do what? And it was cool. And yeah, I remember like us spelling DCI was like on the homepage, and also I remember Ray saying like when we did like the do-si-do thing, he's like, oh, it's like you guys are like the embodiment of like a smile on the field, just like dancing around. And I was like, oh my God, this is so sweet. So it was cool.
All right, before I go on, you just mentioned that you were a woodwind player. What did you play?
I played clarinet in high school, but I was a mellow. That was a great.
Okay. Now I'm just wondering because in the past we've had a lot of panelists, a lot of people who have come from Impulse, and they've always been saxophones. So you're the first non-saxophone player that we've got on this panel.
Yo, clarinet, mellophone, yeah.
I was a clarinet in kindergarten, so like
Steve.
most.
Steve?
Yes.
Same question to you.
What I always play tuba, so I don't know about this woodwind stuff.
No, I meant the audience reaction.
The audience, yes. There was babies thrown after the starburst or the sunburst, whatever that Henry remembers about it. You know, babies were thrown, and I had to pick them up afterwards and give them back to the moms. But there was a lot of that going on, especially at the end, and nothing negative. At least if someone said anything negative, they had to be dealt with. So, yeah.
And Mark.
I'll take the popular answer. I don't actually know. I mean, I was just on the field and like doing my own thing. But I will say, putting the show together, I know that myself included and the members, like we had a good time and a real fun time putting things together, learning some history with some of the other corps, right? And then you can tell that the staff was having a good time putting it together. I remember one specific moment, and I don't know if anybody else does, but if everyone remembers Sean McDermott, right? He was on the Vish staff, and he marched cadets, and there was this Vish block, right? And I remember Sean, Corwin, a couple other people, right? They were talking about, things that they wanted to do as far as like, how do we pay tribute? Like right in this Vish block. And then Sean is advocating for stepping off on that right foot, right? Like, I think we should step on the right foot for this moment. We should be starting off with the right foot. And then there was like this slight argument. And he's like, we could flip a coin for it. He didn't get it. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll drop it. And he has the whole block. He goes, everyone just go ahead and take a step forward. And then 80% of the corps took a step with their right foot. And he goes, see, why shouldn't we do it? So I thought that was really cool. But for everyone wondering, we didn't do it, but but I think it's definitely something that you could tell that the staff and the members had a good time putting that together.
All right, at this point, we are actually going to show the show and then stick around. We're going to have some more questions after we show the 2011 tribute show. I hope all of you enjoy.
Proud to present Impulse!
Do it up!
right. Now that we've just watched the show, let me ask the two caption heads on this panel, what were the judges' reactions to the tribute show? Because we had talked about sort of the audience engagement, but what do you remember the judges' feedback being like with this uniqueness of a show? Let's start with Jeff, and then we'll go to Joey.
I wasn't actually the caption head, but I'll answer the question for you because I was around. The judges loved it. The judges were into it because of what the show was and being a nod to the G Bugle days. So it was no complaints with what was going on with the design of the show and the concept.
Yeah, they were always like, I love what you're doing. I love it. They loved the twist that we put on everything and that we were doing our thing. Like, it just works. Like, you're taking all these random pieces of music that shouldn't work together, but they do. And, they were giving us the credit there. Like, you guys have taken something so random, like you've just kind of like pulled titles out of a bag, and here you are putting them together for it to make sense. And they loved it. They dug it. Every show, they were so entertained. And you watch the show, there's no downtime. Like, I feel bad for the color guard now. I realize how little downtime I ever really gave them, but that's fine. It was worth it. So, but the judges loved it. It was high impact. They bought into it. They knew that we were having fun with it, so they loved it.
Well, since you just answered, to follow up on sort of your second year here with the Corps, what were some of your goals for the color guard going into the second year as the caption head?
I think like with any caption, just growth. We wanted to be bigger. Check. I think the guard almost doubled in size because the year before we were like at 10. I think this year we were at 16 or 18. So we did a pretty good job of recruiting. The cool part was we had a lot of talent walk through the door. We had a lot of kids that weren't part of my programs that were just talented. So that was cool to have, because now I had this, like I said, that color guard was spinning the whole time. They never had a downtime and they never complained. Maybe sometimes, but I never hear those things. I ignore them. But it just growth. And I think you see it from 2010, 2011. The quality of the choreography they got was definitely harder. I think after I had my first year in 2010, I kind of played it safe because I didn't know what the limitations felt like. And I say limitations, it means we do a marching band season, and like, you take a month to learn your opener. You have all of August, all of September. You probably don't touch your ballad till the beginning of October. So it was like, nope, we have 2 weeks. Let's go. So once I kind of found my feeding and how to write that fast and to get the kids to respond that quick, I kind of had a better idea. So I was able to be a little more brave with my choices and stuff like that. So for me, it was just the growth. I think the talent spoke for itself. The choreography spoke for itself. But yeah, to me, that was the biggest thing, was just growth.
All right, next question, Mark. This is for you. From the start of the show, there are some serious big explosive moments and some really killer bass drum runs. What do you remember about this year, and that bass line in particular? And how'd you feel going from like bottom bass to like top bass, or is there like no difference in bass line?
Yeah, I think that when it came down to like the baseline that year, there were two returners, right? So from the previous year, me and Andrew Loyola, we were both rookies in 2010. And then, like one of our ultimate goals were like to play snare drum, at the time. And so, which we ended up doing in 2012 together. But in this instance, 2011, we both got to play bass drum. I was top bass and he was second bass. And then it was Mandy, Chris Chandrews, and I don't know the last Chris's last name, but we called him Chris 5 for obvious reasons. But, we were, they were new. But I will say the percussion staff was pretty stacked. Like like our bass techs, they either just came out of like, winning that 2010 season with Pulse, right? Or they came back from the year before. So we had like Clint Zackow, we had Mel Stakely, Ramis, Nathan Ward, right? So we had a lot of good help there. The front ensemble staff too was also pretty stacked, right? So you had like Charlene Doan, Jesse, Johnny C, Jamie Gepner, Abel, right? So definitely want to like give kudos to like Nico putting a staff like that together. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, so as far as remembering the licks though, not too much. Like I don't remember too much of the licks, but I definitely remember, you know, having a good time playing the book for sure.
All right, this next question goes to the unofficial official face of the drum corps for a long time, Jasper. For a long time on our Facebook and on our website, there's a parade picture where you are front and center. What did it feel like becoming sort of the face of the group for a while? And did you feel any sort of weird pressure about it, or you could care less?
You know, part of me, oh, well, I guess I could say part of me didn't really, part of me could care less. Another part of me felt uh, good because I felt in some way that my efforts were kind of recognized. I tried to do a lot when I wasn't like practicing or playing. I help other people or clean up or see what was going on, and if anyone needed help, I'd be there. So I felt good, kind of being recognized, and also that picture. I don't know, I really like that picture. Yeah.
All right, now that we've watched the show and we've talked a little bit more about it, we're going to go down the list and ask everyone what your favorite part of the show was. And on my screen, I'm going to go in this order. So, Henry, what was your favorite part of the show?
So now I remember the show. That thing was crazy. Actually, there was a lot of energy. Like sitting here, I was actually like, my heart was pumping just because it was just like nonstop. And I started remembering like flashbacks. I remember Alexis, I bumped into her 2-3 years ago. And she actually mentioned that I was like running around in the field teching like a maniac. I guess I was doing like Bish plus music. So I'm like running around. So I was getting like, PTSD on like stuff like that. But I think my best memory is, I don't know if you guys caught it, but I think there was like a Zot. Do you guys remember that? There was like, you guys kind of formed a Zot, and then it was kind of like shifting, like it was like really awesome, and then kind of just came into like a, kind of like an old school block, and it was just, I mean, that was like a great moment. I think I was one of those people that was screaming in the video, so I kind of heard myself. So, I mean, I was really hyped. So it made me proud as an old member to like, see, all these members like, keeping the tradition and creating new traditions. So it was really awesome being part of it.
Jasper, favorite moment?
Man, all of Variations on a Korean Folk Song, to be honest. That was like the whole section was my favorite. I also remember I remember the Zot, it tilts, and then now I don't remember, but we do make an S, and then we collapse it into a straight line, and then we pull it back out, and then we make a block. Oh man, I loved it. Especially the there was a hemiola there where I think the battery was playing in 3, and our music was in 3, and we were marching in 2. Oh man, that was the best part for me.
Jeff.
Yeah, you gotta love the whole Variations on a Korean Folk Song. I mean, the whole show was great, but that was probably the part that stood out from beginning to end, with the part that Jasper's talking about, the Variations.
Alexis.
For me, it was actually a part that I wasn't even in. The drum break is like my favorite part. And I have a really vivid memory of walking in. We were like I think we were all meeting up for ensemble or something. And the horn line was coming in after the battery had been on the field for a while. And it was the first time, because we're doing all that Zot stuff in the back, facing backfield. We had never seen the battery break before. And so we're all putting our waters down, and they're like, all right, battery, let's take one more run. And we were like, oh, we're going to get to watch it. And so we all like crisscross applesauce on the front sideline. And it was so wild because like the Impulse horn line traditionally is a lot younger than the Impulse battery. So it's like a bunch of high school kids is watching like these like college musicians doing this thing, and it was like, whoa, we didn't realize how cool it was. I didn't know they were playing on each other's drums. I was like, oh, this is some cool stuff. And we had no idea what was going on because we're always just running, trying to not die in the backfield, which the drill was also super fun. So that whole like minute of the drum break, going into the pit feature where we're dying on the field running and like just like whispering encouraging things to each other backfield while we're running, and then listening to the battery, knowing that they're jamming and that they're being super cool rock stars in the front. Like that whole thing, super favorite.
Mark.
Yeah, it was cool watching that because I honestly also forgot, like I was actually wondering like what was our percussion break, I thought the Korean folk song arrangement, like being able to hear it now, and reflect on it, like kudos to the designers because that is a really good arrangement, yeah. But I will say that as cool as the drum break was, the beginning of Hoedown, I completely forgot about it, and it was like at that moment it was everybody's time to fulfill their like dream of becoming like a cowboy or a cowgirl, and like just imagine like people on the battery just like wanting to like click their heels with drums on, and how many staff members told us just like don't do that, and then we'll do it anyway. But yeah, so I thought that was actually a pretty high moment. But the arrangement for Korean folk song was cool, and it was really cool playing the book. I think I forgot to mention earlier about some of the bass drum stuff. Just in general, the book was harder. And I think that was also a driving force on like why members continued to come back, because as there were more vets, it gave the writers to be able to write more, right? And so that contributed a lot too. But yeah, Korean folk song, great arrangement. Hoedown, I Gotta Be a Cowboy. It's fun.
Steve.
The contra feature, after the contra feature when they were doing like going crazy, that was pretty fun. And then also the dragon, that was a lot of fun too, because Leo, the guy who was like the littlest contra player, he had a move where, well, as a contra player, like you always have to face the front. Well, not always, but you have to face the front. And like he had this move where he went at a diagonal, and so he's basically like twisting his upper body. And so he's all like, "Hey man, like I feel like I'm gonna twist your back." I'm like, "If you break your back, I'll just drag you off the field, dude." So I mean, like that was always fun. And then just watching, like every time I see that part, I always remember him just going, and then he kind of moved it over, but I was like, no, man, you gotta stay. I gotta see the Zot on your uniform. So he did a good job. So that was it.
Losa.
Oh, I'm just like everything everyone else said. I mean, like the S was so fun. I think we're doing like Cavalier style like marching, I guess, like doing the S thing, and while we were doing that, like yeah, hearing the whole drum line break was like so cool. And yeah, I guess the hoedown part too. I remember like my dancing partner was Leslie, and I would always like whisper something to her and like trying to like make her laugh, and I'm like, oh, we're about to play those. This is not good. But then we'd like pause for 4 seconds and like, oh, listen to the contra solo. It was like really fun.
Seems to be a lot of whispering in the mellophone section. And last, Joey.
I mean, kind of like everyone else, it was Korean folk song. But for me, it's because I'm a clarinet player. And if you've ever played the concert version of that, the first, 30 seconds of that, I don't care what you play, it's all about me. So for me, that's sorry, Steve. So for me, I love that piece to begin with. But it's funny because like I didn't realize, well, I realized it at the time. I think because I loved it so much, like literally, I think 70% of what the color guard spun was in that movement alone. They spun saber, they danced, they had swing flags, they had the gigantic flag, which was a lot of fun to do. So I think they had like 40% or 70% of their equipment that they had for that show was for that movement alone. So that was fun to design because it constantly changed so much that I felt like we had to constantly change the field so much. So I was like, well, let's get another piece of equipment in their hands. Oh, nope, let's dance. Oh, let's get another piece of equipment in their hands. So that was fun. That and the sunburst to the end, because that flag work was just so fun to write. I remember that, having a lot of fun with that. And poor things are running, their little butts off. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. It's what made the end, for me, from the color guard perspective, made the end exciting, was all that fast flag work that they got to do. So those are my two favorite things of the show.
All right, and before we ask the last question, so Sarika got kicked out because she said a very bad reception, but she did have one thing to say for her final question is that the year before she played mellophone, she said this year she felt more at ease being back in guard. It was definitely the most challenging year out of all the years she's marched, but the most rewarding. It taught her a lot about herself and grew as a performer. So kudos to Joey on that. But anyways, our last question to end is what was your favorite moment from the season? It doesn't have to be related to the show, in general, but just the entire season. What was your moment? It could have been like, hey, Omar said you guys went to San Francisco. Hey, in San Francisco we did this, whatever. So I'll go off the other way. I'll start with Joey.
I think for me, it's weird because it actually it's a combined thing. I got really close to my really close friends this season that summer. Steve Yannick, Daniel Ryan, Hondo Morales, and it's funny because at the end of the season, this was the year that I also, as well as caption heading, I was also teaching at Academy. So after the season was over, I jumped on tour with Academy, and it was fun because like they all took me to my first day at Academy, like to be on the road. So that was a lot of fun for we got to end together, then we all jumped in a car, and then they drove me 5 hours to Phoenix before we got on the road. So that was a lot of fun. I just remember that being with how close I got to my friends that summer. That was a lot of fun.
Losa.
Snap. That's so hard. Well, I guess just a memory I thought of was being able to, like, after performing, like, watching the other shows of the other corps. I think that was just so, like, inspiring every time. It was, like, my first time, again, rookie year and, like, only year, but just, like, being like, oh, we're doing that too. And, like, that's so cool that, like, I think someone said it was, like, the difference between us and them, like, really isn't much. Like, we're all, like, marching. We're all, like, doing this, like making cool shows and stuff. So it was inspiring. And yeah, I loved, I think it was like Phantom Regiment and Santa Clara Vanguard did like really cool shows that year. So it was cool.
Steve.
Teaching with all my friends. I mean, I brought down Henry. I'll take credit for that, to bring him down. But teaching with him, teaching with like Richie. Richie was awesome, man. I love that guy. Josh Pierre, teaching with him, teaching with everybody, all the pit staff, the drum staff, everybody. We just all, like, as a staff, we all gelled really well. And then also just like, having awesome members, like, all these kids and all the conches and all that stuff. That was just great, And also that part where every time I see that kid, I always like think about like his back is gonna snap. But other than that, it was pretty fun. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Mark.
Hard to pinpoint like one favorite point of the season. Like, I think the whole process for this particular show, right? Like putting this one together, and just thinking back to that process, I think that's definitely one of my favorite things for the season. Obviously love the percussion feature, the drum stuff, was pretty neat. And just getting to march again, right? Like with my friends from 2010, for people that stayed, like our leader at the time was Chris Rogers, and he stayed for a while longer too. I kind of remember also that like every so often, like I think Nico and who I would say Mr. Rogers, I guess Chris Rogers' dad, right, might like, like talk, and Nico might say, hey, what do you want to see? And then Mr. Rogers might say like, oh, I want to see drum to drum, or I want to see like a split roll or something. I remember hearing that somewhere. But I always thought that was like the whole process of everything. I think that was probably the first year I got to really like soak in like how things were done, and like from all sides. So I thought that was pretty cool.
All right, before I continue on, sorry, Alexis, I got a question from Martha Baba. Who was the drum major this year? Was it Matt Rodriguez or Sal Hernandez?
Ted.
Who?
Ted
Del Rosario.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah,
Alexis.
that guy's a stud.
Continuing on. Don't be like Steven. Answer this last question.
Yeah, Ted's the best. Anyway, yeah, I have like a favorite memory, and it was Memorial Day weekend, my first like big kid camp. Like we all stayed over. I felt like the whole weekend Jasper was kind of reeling in like these puppies that he had for a mellophone section. We were like really all over the place. We were just bouncing off the walls all the time. We were very chatty, and I remember he would always like turn around and do this little owl thing that he would do, where he would go shh like this and then turn back around really fast. And so I like we would always get like scolded, and like he would be like shh, like stop talking, and it's just like, oh, okay. But we had this little thing where we would always peek at a hill that was like on the outside of the field where we were rehearsing, and we were like, man, that's a good looking hill. Like if we could roll down that hill, that'd be the best. Like, oh, wow. And then the last day of like Memorial Day weekend comes by. It sounds dumb, I know, but it was a big deal back then. It was all we had. We were in Taft. There's not much to look at. So the rehearsal was over and we were like getting ready to pack up, and Jasper was like, Melvin, stay here. And we were like, oh, heck, we're in trouble. We weren't ready for whatever was about to happen to us. We thought he was going to make us run for being rambunctious. And then he was like, everybody go to the top of that hill. And we were like, okay. And we were ready to run. And he was like, and this is when we roll down the hill all together. And it was like, yay. And we all rode down the hill. And it was really, really fun. And we all giggled and laughed. And then we all started walking to the food line. And Jasper started breaking out in hives because he was allergic to grass. And and that's like my favorite memory is like, yeah, band is hardcore and we should have good field etiquette, but we can also roll down the hill sometimes, and that's okay. And that's the most important thing I learned in drum corps. Hives are okay.
Jeff.
It's a tough one. I think like the whole, Joey, you can nod. Didn't we start like in September with the design? I think the first meeting. Anyhow, design the whole year, the process was probably the neatest thing because there was a lot of things, and just working with some of the people like Mark, mentioned Mr. Rogers, Carolyn Parsons. There was just all sorts of people, the guard staff, brass staff, everybody. It was kind of the vibe was pretty good. The energy from the kids was incredible. It was one of those years, where probably the whole process, although Nico and I, when they went to San Francisco, Nico needed to go home early and we stopped at the John Steinbeck Museum in Salinas. And they do a tribute to the Red Pony, and you would have had to have been there. It was classic.
Was there a sunburst?
No, but they have like this wooden horse. I'm not going to say anymore. It was great. It was fun. We had a good time.
Jasper.
Man, of that season, my favorite part would have to be having a mellophone section. Having a mellophone section that is like super young, and they were great. They were very chatty, and sometimes wouldn't listen. But they threw down and they tried their hardest, and it was really great trying to like in a way mentor them because they were brand new. I had like a section of 6, and almost all of them were new to mellophone. Yeah.
All right, finally, Princess. Henry.
Henry. Yeah, so I'll piggyback on what Steve said. For me, like the best moment that's actually honestly like my only time I actually taught drum corps were those 2 weeks. So it is, those 2 weeks are very special for me. Staff, it was awesome just working with people that I marched with, and then just working with different people from other corps style, and everybody was so cool and chill. I remember I think I slept in Joey's like living room like 1 or 2 times, and I was just like traveling, so everybody was so chill. San Francisco was really fun. That was my first time going to San Francisco, and as a staff, we were like walking around 10 people staff. We're just being stupid kids, It was a great time. I'm glad that the mellophone sections were awesome. I know they were all beginner players, so it was kind of hard to like work with them, but they're woodwind players. I remember Losa, we were talking about articulation because she couldn't tongue. She was doing the clarinet tonguing, so that was kind of rough. But it was awesome. And then like my actual best moment was I got a chance to touch the back of the bus of the horn line. So I have a great picture of me touching it with all my patches, because all the members were out on their free day in San Francisco. So I went back there. We the whole staff went back there and just started taking pictures. So they lost.
Yeah, we did.
Whatever, man. I was having fun.
I might actually have those pictures somewhere.
Real quick, I have a comment here on the feed from Adam Sider saying, "This is the first time I'm hearing Jasper speak not so intensely." So, yay.
Jasper's an intense person. Just ask the mellophones.
If when it comes to like teaching and drum corps and shit, yeah, I'll get intense. But like in this, it's very relaxed.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. This was the Impulse Watch Party for the year 2011 tribute. Oh, hi, puppy. We've had a great time. We do these every Saturday at the same time, 6 p.m. If you marched any of the upcoming years, 12 to 19, and you want to be on this panel, please email us at secretary@impulseyoutharts.org. When we have a larger panel like this, it's a lot of fun. So just reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to include you. Please check out all of our offerings on our website at www.impulseyoutharts.org. And if you're an alumni, please get involved. We're starting an alumni group that's headed up by Henry right here. And we have lots of ways that we would love to have you get involved with us again. So hope to see you guys next week and have a wonderful day.